In fact, they're banned in this country. So it's important to kind of avoid trans fats as much as possible. With the food labeling laws, there may be a food label that says 0 trans fats. However, if you look in the ingredient list and you see anything that says hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oils, those are trans fats. And there's not enough in the food for it to register on the food label as like 1/2 gram or a full gram. So they're allowed to put 0. And so that's why it's important to still read the ingredient list to look for trans fats. Poly and monounsaturated fats can actually reduce inflammation and improve our heart health, and those mainly come from plant foods. So the type of fat matters, but we all need fat in our diet. Okay, so moving on to the micronutrients. I love this picture. It's so pretty. The rainbow effect here is really key when we talk about micronutrients, and we will come back to that later. Excuse me. So we'll talk about vitamins first. There are 2 kinds, fat-soluble and water-soluble vitamins. The fat-soluble vitamins are A, D, E, and K. That basically means that those vitamins can be stored in our body. And so we do have to be a little bit more careful about supplementing those because it's possible to get toxic levels of them. The water-soluble vitamins are the B vitamins and vitamin C. And water-soluble means that we cannot store these vitamins, and so any excess that you eat or take in supplement form, you will excrete in the urine. And that's kind of important to keep in mind if you're thinking about supplementing the water-soluble vitamins, because they're very easy to get from food. And if you're paying money for those vitamins, you're probably just peeing them out. So it's something to kind of think about. And I listed the B vitamins because they all have their own fancy names. And you might kind of wonder what the relationship is. And there's just, you know, the B vitamins are numbered, but they do have an actual name as well. So if you've ever wondered what thiamine is, riboflavin, they're just B vitamins. Okay, so vitamins are important coenzymes for metabolism. So what that means, metabolism is a chemical reaction that turns our food into fuel or energy. And so after digestion, when we take those teeny tiny pieces of things, of glucose, of amino acids, etc., we have chemical reactions that require coenzymes that turn those foods, those tiny pieces of foods, into actual usable energy. And that's what metabolism is. They're also very important for our immune system, keeping it healthy. They're important to help us mineralize our bones and keep our bones nice and strong. Vitamin K particularly helps with blood clotting. And we get vitamins from both plants and animals, and we also get them from fortified foods. So a really good example of this is a breakfast cereal. If you read the ingredients, you'll see a ton of vitamins added. And that was, I forget what decade that was implemented, but here in the US, we started fortifying a lot of breakfast cereals and breads and things like that, just to eliminate any vitamin deficiencies in the population. All right, moving on to minerals. These are a little bit more boring. So we have potassium, sodium, calcium, phos, mag, chlorine, and sulfur. And then we have these trace minerals as well. One thing I want to point out about minerals is that the content of a food of minerals varies by the soil content. So what that means is in a lot of our very industrial farms here in the US, where the land is farmed and not really replenished with compost or crop rotation or bumper crops or things like that, the soil can become very deficient in nutrients, and that will affect the mineral content of food. That's not true for necessarily vitamins or macronutrients, but it is true for minerals. So that's why we talk a lot about growing your own food when possible, you know, buying produce from small local farms that, you know, have good farming practices that replenish the soil. But a lot of the fertilizers that we use here in the US, we use in order to repopulate the soil with a lot of those good nutrients. Composting is another way to do that, but not quite as cost effective. So the big industrial farms tend to use fertilizers. Minerals function as electrolytes. So potassium, sodium, calcium, phos, all those first ones function as our electrolytes in our body. Some of them are antioxidants. Some of them help with enzyme production. Some help with cell signaling. And minerals, similar to vitamins, are found in both plants and animals, and also, again, in fortified foods. Okay, so moving on to antioxidants. Again, they don't provide energy and they don't serve an essential function in the body. However, antioxidants do help protect our cells against damage. What this means is that it can help reduce cancer and heart disease risk. So while they don't have essential functions, they're still very important. Some of the micronutrients we talked about actually function as antioxidants. So vitamins A, C, and E, the mineral selenium, and then we have these things called phytochemicals in our foods that also function as antioxidants. We find them mostly in plants, and we've had a few studies now that show that supplementation of these antioxidants may not be as effective as getting them from food, and it may actually in some cases be counterproductive, where not only does it not protect our cells, but it can actually damage them. So some of the reasoning behind this has to do with other chemicals in food that interact with those antioxidants that, you know, help them work as protective chemicals. And so when you go isolating a supplement and putting it into a pill, you don't have those other chemicals that work together. I do want to note that this picture here is not all-inclusive. There are a ton of foods that have antioxidants. As a rule of thumb, these really colorful ones, like the red cabbage, the blueberries, the strawberries, the colorful ones are where you get those phytochemicals. And so that's why, if you remember the picture on my vitamin slide of the heart and the rainbow, eating the rainbow is very important to get those phytochemicals. Okay, so after all this baseline information, you might be thinking, well, what exactly does that mean? What is a healthy diet? And the term healthy and health in general is very hard for me as a dietitian because it means something very different for everybody. And so when we think of health or overall health, I love this picture because it shows, you know, we've got our carrot, our strawberry, our broccoli,